speak to you in the name of the one true and living God. Amen. One of the most beautiful and powerful true stories I've ever heard is about a mother and her 4-year-old son. As the mom told the story, she described with some frustration the seemingly unrelenting presence of her boy on her heels. "He's always under my feet," she said. "Whenever I turn around, I trip over him, and no matter how many exciting alternatives I present, he claims the only place he wants to be is right behind me." One day, at the end of her rope and impatient with having stepped on her son one too many times, the mom lost her cool, only to be met with the kind of insight so often revealed to us by young children. "But Mom," the boy said quietly but with certainty, "my Sunday school teacher told me I should always walk in the footsteps of Jesus. Since I can't find him, I figure you are the next best thing, so I'm walking in your footsteps every chance I get." Well, whether we know it or not, people, children like that boy in the story, and grown-ups too, known to us or entirely unknown, people walk in our footsteps every day. Whether we like it or not, people watch us every day. They watch the way we live our lives, the choices we make, the things we value. We know this is true, of course, because we also watch other people. We walk in their footsteps or refuse to do so. We make judgments and draw conclusions about those whom we encounter based on what they say and we hear, based on their witness in our world. So with this in mind, knowing that there may always be someone walking in our footsteps, it becomes incumbent upon us to carefully and intentionally heed the words of Jesus proclaimed in the gospel this morning. "By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." Or, as the First Nations version, an indigenous translation of the New Testament, so beautifully expresses the truth, "I am giving you a new road to walk. In the same way that I have loved you, you are to love each other. This kind of love will be the sign for all people that you are walking the road with me." Everyone will know, Jesus tells us. This will be a sign for all people. Everyone will know who we are, know who it is we follow, know what we value and believe and practice and preach. Everyone will know these and so many other things based entirely on our love for one another. In the earliest days of Christianity, amidst the horrendous persecution that drove the church quite literally underground, those who did not believe the gospel, and even those who worked hard to destroy the faith, could not help but remark time and time again, "Those Christians, they sure do love each other." 2,000 years later, we should hope and pray that the same would be said about us. We must do all that we can to ensure that those who watch us, those who follow in our footsteps, would make the same observation about us, that the history books would record us as a generation and a community of people who, above all else, dared to faithfully follow their Lord's commandment to love. I've preached this sermon so often, it seems, but never before have I felt the urgency that I feel right now about the call to make sure that they sure do love each other is what is said about Christians, rather than some other loud, competing, and quite contrary messaging that also confidently claims to be on this road with Jesus. So, if we can agree that we simply must get on with this loving one another, how exactly are we to do it? So many of the teachings of Jesus can be complicated, even unclear, but not this one. Simple to understand, but not at all simplistic to live into. The instructions are right there in this, his final commandment. Just as I have loved you, said Jesus, you also should love one another. The disciples who first heard those words, and those of us who have heard them countless times since, are not in any way left to figure out for ourselves who or how to love. We are to love as Jesus loved. That's it. So we better take a closer look at his example. Jesus loved selflessly. He loved without consideration of what may or may not have been in it for him. This kind of love isn't very easy for us. More often than not, our noblest and purest love is not free from some element of self. We love with the best of intentions, but not without thinking of what we ourselves stand to gain or to lose from the love we give. Somewhere in the back of our minds, in the bottom of our hearts, we seek our own happiness and joy in our love for others. But this is not the way that Jesus loved. He loved by giving, without any concern for receiving. Jesus loved sacrificially. There was no limit to what his love would give or where it would go. No demand that was made upon the love of Christ was ever too much. In the end, of course, love meant the cross, and he was prepared to go there. This kind of love is not easy for us either. This kind of love we are called to have for one another often comes at a tremendous cost. It can cost us money or time or energy. It can draw on our emotions or our convictions. It can leave us tired, spent, perhaps even hurt. But love is a sacrifice. Jesus loved forgivingly. Hours, just hours after issuing this command, one of the 12 would betray Jesus. The next day, another would deny him, and then nearly all of them would run away and hide in his hour of greatest need. Many would say that the disciples never really understood Jesus, and that when it counted, most of them clearly cared more about themselves than the one they were following. But Jesus held nothing against them. He forgave them. He forgave the very people who hung him on the cross. There was no failure he would not forgive, and that's the way he loved. Yet again, we have this example of love, which is extremely difficult for us to follow. Forgiveness is hard to give, and oftentimes even harder to receive, but it's essential if we are to love as Jesus loved. And Jesus loved universally. He loved each person as he loved all people. There were and there are no exceptions to the love of Christ. We all love with exceptions, or as one author quite honestly describes it, we love with our fingers crossed. Loving universally is difficult. It's unpopular. It doesn't make a lot of sense sometimes, but it's how Jesus loved. We haven't got time, really, for the several other ways that I could finish that sentence that begins, Jesus loved, ... But I know that you will hear, witness, and most importantly, be a part of so many more lived and loving examples right here at St. John's. I'm always so grateful for this community's commitment to being that sign for all people that you are walking this road with Jesus. It's not always easy work, right? But it's always worth it. And we're all stretching and growing in our ability to do it. But as I said before, I feel that our loving as Jesus loved is more urgently needed now than it ever has been before. I don't think I've ever quoted an Olympic gymnast in a sermon before, but I just can't let go of something I read that Simone Biles said in a commencement address this past week. The world doesn't need you to be perfect, she said. It only needs you to be bold. We needn't love perfectly then, friends, but we must love boldly. Myself, when I'm finding it overwhelming or challenging, even painful, or just plain difficult to love as Jesus loved, well, then I draw on the amazing truth and depth of Jesus' love for me. And I realize that I have more of those reserves to feel grateful for than I could ever count or measure, and then I just get on with it. also consider the alternative. Remembering the wise and compelling words of that great theologian and author C.S. Lewis. He writes, "To love at all is to be vulnerable. Love anything and your heart will certainly be wrung and possibly be broken. If you want to make sure of keeping it intact, you must give your heart to no one. Wrap it around carefully with hobbies and little luxuries. Avoid all entanglements. Lock it up safe in the casket of your selfishness. But in that casket," he writes, "safe, dark, motionless, airless, it will change. It will not be broken. It will instead become unbreakable, impenetrable, irredeemable. The only place," says Lewis, "outside of heaven where you can be perfectly safe from all the dangers of love is hell." Those are some powerful words. But Christ's is a powerful love. Isn't it awesome to realize that we are loved with that kind of power? And so we are called to powerfully love, without concern for our own benefit, without measuring the cost, without regard for others' failures, without limits or exception, even, especially, when we think we can't, and definitely when we realize that we must. Someone is watching. Someone is walking in my footsteps and in yours as they seek nothing less than the footsteps of Jesus Christ. May they always see the one that they're seeking, and may it always be true and truer still that everyone will know that we are Christ's disciples because we have love for one another.